Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob, Day 2 from Challenge Daytona and the PTO 2020 Championship. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Captiva Spine, John Hall Chevrolet, USA Triathlon, Foundation Risk Partners, and the PTO, the Pro Triathletes Organization. Speaking of PTO, rank number 6 on the PTO Tour, Mr. Ben Hoffman. He's top-ranked American. How you doing, Benny?
I'm doing really well, man. It's exciting to be here and really looking forward to the weekend.
I know you love racing, and we're like the ultimate place to race, right? We're at the Daytona Speedway.
Yeah, and especially this year, we haven't had a lot of it. So it's exciting to have an event like this and to have all the best athletes in the world congregating in one spot to have a world championship caliber event. So, yeah, I'm super excited to be here. And, you know, it's a really unique experience. And, yeah I'm thrilled.
Well, so the cool part about this, you got ITU athletes, you got Olympic gold medalist Alistair Brownlee, you got Johnny Brownlee, so many of the top Olympic distance guys. Then at the same time, you got Lionel Sanders, guys you've raced a lot. Pretty cool to have that type of mix, and how deep the field is.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, of course, I'm an Ironman specialist, and this wouldn't be the race that I would absolutely choose for myself with a flatter course and a little bit less than a half Ironman distance, but all that said, I think, you know, what you just touched on is what makes this really special too, is that you have all the best athletes from a variety of, you know, different backgrounds, different distances and specialties doing this race. And so, yeah, I'm here to absorb it all, to be excited about it, to support the PTO and their mission. And I'm going to give my best on the day and see what happens. But yeah, it's a really exciting event, super unique.
What's fascinating is you come off end of 2019 and had the second fastest run of the day in Kona to run your way into fourth place, and then a couple weeks later you go to Florida and have another amazing race, and then basically you're getting ready for the following year. How hard has this been for you, knowing you were on such a high, and then basically there was no racing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm 37 years old now, and, you know, on paper and historically, as we've seen with Ironman athletes, I'm kind of in my prime right now. So it's difficult on that level to sort of give up what I think is probably one of my best years, as long as I'm healthy and motivated. So, yeah, it's been that kind of, I guess, that weird dynamic where, of course, I would have loved to be racing and giving my best and hopefully having another one of my best seasons ever. On the flip side of it, you know, what it's meant is that I've had the ability to be home a little bit more with my family. And, you know, Josie's growing up where she's changing every day. It's really exciting to be there and witness all that. And then, of course, we have another baby coming March 1st. So, yeah, that's been the silver lining of it, I guess, but certainly a difficult year for everyone. And, yeah, that's why I'm excited to be here, because we finally get to have, you know, an event and a world championship event at that.
So one of your sponsors, Master Spa, they have a little contest going on where people submitted questions to win a gift bag from Master Spas. And your question is, can you do the fly in the Master Spa?
I have done a little bit of butterfly. You know, it definitely makes quite a big splash when you do that. And I would say freestyle is definitely the more appropriate, you know, stroke to be doing in there. But it is something you can do if you want to. And I'm sure if you look it up too, there's some pretty cool videos of Michael Phelps doing some butterfly in his Michael Phelps Master Spas. So it's certainly possible. My form is not the best. So, but yeah, it's possible to do it.
And it's probably been a good thing for you to have with all the pools being closed down this year.
Absolutely. At the beginning of the pandemic, you know, everything closed down. Yeah. And I was able to keep swimming in my backyard right there at home. And it was an incredible tool. And what I found was that, you know, I hadn't done such a concentrated block in it. I was using it more, you know, 2-3 times a week at home, kind of as easier swims, recovery swims, whatever. But when I turned it into literally every day of swimming in there, I was like, well, I don't know how this is going to translate to my performance in the pool and open water and everything else. But as it turned out, I came out of it in really good shape still. So it's been an incredible tool to have. You know, it's something that I really enjoy being in. And then on top of that, for our family, you know, just to have a place to kind of relax. Every once in a while, we crank it up to hot tub temperature, go out there and just enjoy the hydrotherapy too. So, yeah, it's a really cool tool, something that I'm really excited to have, you know, as my arsenal. And, yeah, I'm really, really proud to have their support as well.
So when you finished Kona last year and you had this, you know, 243 marathon off the bike and ran your way up, and I know, you know, T.O. and everybody was like, oh, here comes Ben, when they're coming coming out of the energy lab and they see you and they're like, wow. did you have the gut that you were going to have that type of run? Because we know you've been working with Ryan Bolton and training with some of the best runners on the planet, and had not really seen that run in that place.
Yeah, definitely. I think, for me, that was a big part of the race last year. Number one was to come back from my injury in 2018 and have a good season, which I had a great race in South Africa, a good run there. And then, of course, Kona and then Florida as well. But, yeah, I really wanted to make sure that I executed a run that I knew I had in me. And that meant to be, a little bit more restrained on the bike maybe. And in the end, I think it's always difficult, right? You look back and think maybe I could have done this a little bit differently and I would have finished a spot higher or whatever it was. But I really did have a great performance out there. And for me, to walk away with that 243 in my back pocket means that now I have the confidence to know that I can be competitive for the win out there. So putting that on display, having that mental confidence now is big for me moving forward.
If you had talked to a Dave Scott or Mark Allen back in the day and said, okay, you just finished Kona, now in about 3 weeks we're going to go have you do Ironman Florida and run another full marathon, they would have looked at you cross-eyed and said, you are crazy. But there seems to be hey, listen, if I wait a month, I sort of lose fitness. But if I've got all this great fitness, if I can just sort of recover, I can go do another Ironman and run that full marathon well. And both you and Joe Skipper showed that in Florida just a few weeks after Kona last year.
Absolutely, yeah. And the physical is really only one side, but I think also the mental, right? I mean, if you're excited about doing another race, and oftentimes I think we put so much energy into Kona that there's sort of a mental and a physical fallout. But this, previous Kona in 2019, I was thinking, I actually still feel like I have energy to give towards racing this year. And so for me, that was a big component too. I pulled up afterwards and I said, physically, I feel pretty good. And mentally, I feel really good.
Right.
So I'm going to give this a try and see what happens. And it turned out that, I had one of the best Ironmans of my life, went 7:48, set the fastest, American time, and also the fastest Ironman marathon ever. So you just never know. I think you got to go with your go with your gut there, and when you feel good, you got to race.
So I mean, is that something that will help you make a decision on future racing, where maybe you'll do more back-to-back type of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be some planning and strategy in a season, and always we'll build everything around Ironman Hawaii and Kona. But at the same time, you've got to leave some room, I think, for, going with the impulses. And when you feel good, you feel good.
So the other thing is the fact that you're top-ranked American right now. We've got the Collins Cup coming up next May in Samarin. And that's again, what I like about this is you got a 20-meter draft rule, which is great for your strong cyclists. That's the same type of deal there. But also it's the U.S. against the internationals, against the Europeans. You like that?
I do, yeah. I think it's going to be really exciting. And I think that dynamic is something that definitely gets me fired up. I mean, I think, I expect my training and my racing to go to another level, knowing that I'm doing it for my country and for my fellow, athletes that are Americans as well, trying to do that competition. So, I'm really looking forward to that race. I'm highlighting it on my calendar as definitely the major goal for the first part of the year.
Right.
And I think it's going to be something that gets not only the athletes excited, but also the people that follow the sport. So.
When you were in college doing this crazy sport, if someone had told you, hey, you're going to make a living in this sport and you're going to be doing this, 10 years from now, what would you have said? Yeah,
I mean, it's one of my proudest things, actually, when I think about, doing triathlon, is that I was actually able to make it into a viable career.
Right.
And it's certainly not something that I fully wrapped my head around or thought was possible maybe when I first started. I mean, my main focus when I began triathlon was just to enjoy it.
Right.
And to enjoy the community and the entire pursuit of excellence and being the best I could as an athlete, and just the adventure of it as well. So I would say that side wasn't really on my mind as much, but now that it's happened, it's certainly one of my, like I said, proudest things that I've done in the sport, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been an incredible journey.
When you look at the variety of your wins in South Africa and just the variety of racing you've done, is there one favorite race and one favorite day that you've had?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely, for me, hard to look past being on the podium at Ironman World Championships. I mean, being second there in 2014 alongside Sebastian, who's a good friend of mine, was a really special day. And, I think, that definitely ranks right up there. And then also having 3 wins in South Africa, that race is special to me. The community there just really, opens up and really embraces the race. And the course is really incredibly scenic and beautiful and challenging. So those are definitely some highlights. And then also actually Ironman Wisconsin in Madison was one of my favorites too. And I took the title there in 2012. So yeah, those are kind of some of the highlights that I think of. But hopefully the best is yet to come.
One of the things that hit me was when you hurt your back severely, right? And when you were doing Cape Epic. And to get your spot in Kona, you basically had to walk that marathon on a course where you had won, right? I think you had won twice, right?
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
You had won twice. How hard was that to walk that? And also, how redeeming was it to come back the following year and win your title back?
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, honestly, thinking about it right now takes me right back. And I remember being on the marathon so clearly there and walking, and just, I was in a lot of pain, and mentally it was super difficult just to keep walking and moving forward. And I was out there with all these incredible age group athletes that were also,
light
out
stick?
there
You have
walking.
your light stick?
Very close. I finished right at dusk there, so it was pretty much getting dark. And there was about, I guess, maybe 5 miles, 10K into the marathon where I just had this epiphany where I was like, well, if I go back to my hotel room and sit there and feel bad for myself and quit the race, time is going to pass at exactly the same speed as if I'm out here walking. So I might as well just embrace this. And and it was cool because as soon as I did that, as soon as I changed my mindset about it, I just saw everything differently. And I mean, people were out there, patting me on the back, and I just got into it. And I was like, well, this is the reality right now. I'm not in the shape to win this thing because I'm injured. And I just have to deal with what's in front of me and try to make the most of it. And it ended up being a really kind of transformative experience where I felt even more at home there, and I even more embraced by the community. And so therefore I came back the next year, like you said, and was able to win my third title there. And that was just the icing on the cake, I think, to kind of come full circle.
Right. When you have that type of day, I remember Mark Allen told me once waking up sick at the Nice Triathlon, and he'd won the thing 7-8 times. And he's like, I'm too sick to go to the starting line. He says, you know what? I'm going to get 100% out of the 50% I have,
right,
and be happy with the effort. And then you end up going and winning the race. But for you, when you're out there walking and then you're getting 100% out of whatever you have, and that has to be something you can draw on when you have tough times in other races.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I think it's just the mindset, right? That's kind of how you have to approach everything, is to look for the positive. And it sounds really cliche, but it actually ends up being what is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the truth is that you're not always going to be 100%, but you have to plan also, I think, in your training for the days when you don't feel good. I mean, the best athletes still get incredible performances even when they don't feel their best. You can't just rely on feeling your best on the one day every year that you have to feel your best. So yeah, being prepared to perform even when you feel bad is really key. And then for me also, just I follow Zen Buddhism a little bit, and I think the concept with that is basically a general appreciation for life, right? And that means even appreciating things that are quote unquote bad. And so I mean, just kind of looking at it all and saying this is this, and being appreciative of it.
Well, and the other side of it is, I'm sure the age groupers appreciated it, because it's an easy thing to just go, listen, I've got to take care of my back, and I can take a month off starting now and go do another race rather than being out here schlepping in the through the marathon course. But I think you gain some street cred from the age group athletes who are dealing with the same thing. Plus, you get to meet some of those guys. I remember Chris Lee telling me when he was walking the marathon going, that chicken soup stuff's pretty good. I've never had that before.
And on the flip side of that, too, it's really cool because I think back on it, and like I told you, it's kind of also what kept me going when I finally changed my mindset in the early miles of that walking experience. It's what kept me going was just the people out there that were, they're doing this race too. And it changed my entire mindset about the age group athlete and the people that are finishing in 12 to 15 to 17 hours. And it just kind of deepened my appreciation for the entire community of people that are out there and how difficult it is. I mean, it's actually harder in some ways to spend 12 hours out there than it is to spend 8 hours out there, even if I mean, it's all relative, but at the same time, it just changed my entire mindset about it. And I have the utmost respect for these people that do this, and they have families and jobs and everything else. So yeah, I mean, kudos to everybody out there who even finishes one of these things. But it was something I'll never forget.
I remember marathoner Bill Rogers saying, I don't know how you people are out there for 5 hours. I'm 2 hours, and that seems too long to me.
Right.
That's hard. It is.
Yeah.
It's hard to rationalize that. So this venue, like we said, this is about as flat as you can get. But there's going to be wind. There's going to be a 20-meter draft rule. I mean, I feel like that the Ironman 70.3 guys are used to being in that aero position for a couple hours and dealing with whatever comes their way. You feel there's an advantage for either side here, the ITU guys, the Ironman guys?
I think probably the people that I would say it does tip a little bit maybe in favor of the short course specialists, because I do think, as we've seen with at least a handful of them, they are able to kind of transition over to that half distance and still perform well. It's not quite far enough out probably in terms of the time. Like if you got to the 6, 7, 8 hour mark, more of an Ironman, I think you'd really see the wheels come off.
Nutrition comes more into play,
exactly,
et cetera, yeah.
But the truth is, too, that like these ITU athletes, I mean, I still remember stories, too, of Jan Frodeno and other athletes that before they even came to Ironman, they were doing 35, 40 hours of training a week. So it's not completely out of their wheelhouse to be, doing a race of 3.5, 4 hours or whatever it is. So I think it is a little bit in their favor. That said, like you mentioned, not having the ability to draft on the bike, and especially having a draft meter or 20-meter draft rule, I think will be, in favor of the Ironman athletes. But yeah, it's going to be a really incredible battle. I mean, I think, there's plenty of guys that are, you got your Sebastian, you got your Lionel Sanders, guys who've obviously performed really well over the half Ironman distance that are going to give these guys a run for their money. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of explosions, a lot of surprises. It's just going to be an exciting race.
Yeah, and we're talking $1.15 million in one race. This can make somebody's season.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's really cool what the PTO's done. They've stepped up in a big way in a super difficult year.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's just, it's really awesome because, I mean, there haven't been a lot of races, and it's a really challenging dynamic worldwide right now, I think. But they've pulled the resources together to make something happen, and not just something, but something special. And I'm just excited to be here and be part of it, support their mission, to raise the athletes up, raise the, the sport up. And, I mean, it's going to be super exciting. So, I'm going to give everything I have on the day on Sunday, see what I can do out there. And I think it'll be something also that I'll never forget.
The Hoff on the Speedway. What could be better than that?
That's right, man. I've got the checkered flags on my race kit, and I'm excited to go out there and pay homage.
Love it. Ben Hoffman has been our guest. Benny, have a great one.
Thank you, Bob.
Again, this is Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Daytona PTO 2020 Championship. Hold on. We'll be right back.